I think we can take some questions. Again, any questions that we wouldn't have time to answer now could be submitted in writing, and we will answer in writing. Any questions that will be submitted today and that we would answer now, any question that we would be able to answer now, because there may be questions that we're not able to answer, will also be put online, on the website, so that for transparency purposes, it's available to all. That's how we plan to operate. Merci.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Idriss Alzoumamega, je viens du Niger, je suis le président de la Fédération du Niger et aussi celle de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Je vous remercie pour la présentation, mais je voudrais quand même faire une petite remarque, parce que aussi bien le monsieur Berans, c'est ça, qui a fait l'introduction, que vous. Moi, quand je venais, j'ai vu que c'était, je pensais que c'était, on allait nous présenter les financements panafricains des sociétés civiles, des organisations de la société civile, les programmes de financement qui existent pour les organisations de la société civile, n'est-ce pas? Quand je suis venu, j'ai entendu plus la question de la femme, Je n'ai rien contre la femme, je viens d'un pays polygame, je suis moi-même marié à 3 femmes, mais je pense que si on parle de groupes vulnérables, les personnes handicapées sont plus vulnérables que les femmes. En temps de guerre, la personne handicapée visuelle ne peut même pas voir où aller. La personne handicapée en fauteuil ne peut même pas courir. La personne sourde n'entend même pas qu'il y a danger. Je pense que ces aspects doivent être pris en compte. Et quand vous prenez aussi les organisations de femmes, les femmes handicapées sont davantage plus vulnérables. Parce que d'abord que partout on reconnaît la vulnérabilité de la femme, mais aussi elles sont plus vulnérables du fait qu'il y a le handicap qui s'est grévé à cette vulnérabilité. Donc il y a une double vulnérabilité. Et à ma connaissance, l'Union européenne a ratifié la Convention relative aux droits des personnes handicapées. Tout à l'heure, dans une session, je l'ai dit, en Afrique, particulièrement chez moi au Niger, les organisations de la société civile ne prennent pas les organisations de personnes handicapées, ils ne les considèrent pas comme étant membres de la société civile. Nous voudrions appeler leur attention à ça et nous voudrions que les interventions de l'Union européenne soient plus inclusives des personnes handicapées. Parce que leur vulnérabilité, je le rappelle, est plus ressentie. Parce que quand il y a un obstacle, quand il y a un danger, quand il y a une guerre, chez moi, il y a Boko Haram vers Difa, vers le Nigeria, la frontière avec le Nigeria. Les personnes handicapées de là-bas m'ont appelé pour me dire que tout le village a fui, sauf elles, les personnes handicapées. J'ai dit, allez-y, ils sont en danger du fait de Boko Haram. J'ai dit, allez-y à la direction du ministère du Développement social. Ils m'ont dit, même au ministère, tout le monde a fui. Vous voyez, même le ministère qui est en charge, qui a la charge de la tutelle des personnes handicapées, a fui, a laissé les personnes handicapées sur ces terrains. Donc, en temps de guerre, en temps de crise, en temps de, comment on appelle, inondation, les personnes handicapées ressentent plus ces insécurités que n'importe quelle couche de la société. Mais j'encourage quand même, je suis moi-même défenseur de la cause de la femme parce que à notre fédération, nous mettons l'accent sur le leadership des femmes. Donc, c'est vous dire que nous avons la question de la femme à cœur. Merci.
Excusez-moi, est-ce que vous souhaitez que je prenne plusieurs questions? Sorry. Shall I take... Okay. Let's take several questions if you don't mind, and then I'll answer back to you. Je prends plusieurs questions et je vous réponds ensuite.
Thank you. I have a few. In the call, you mentioned the co-financing mechanism. Could you expand a bit of that and explain what it means, and if at the stage of submitting a concept note, do we need to have a co-financing mechanism in place, or is it for after? So if you can explain a bit about that. Also clarifying how many applications can each CSO submit. I understand we can't submit more than once under each slot, but can we choose 2 slots, for example? And do you have a fixed, I understand you don't have a fixed number of calls under each slot, but are you willing to say if you have good applications under slot 1 but not good applications under slot 3 to avoid allocating applications for slots? So yeah, just how do you plan to do that? And there's a broader question, sorry, the last one, around the role of policymakers and governments, because it's a key stakeholder in how civil society organizations behave in these countries. So if you have any particular view on the role that the government should take, if it should be involved, if you would like to see the government involved, that would be good to hear. That's all, thanks.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Cecilia from DSW, based in Brussels. I would just want to ask you if you can clarify. You clarify very well what is the multi-stakeholder approach, but I wanted to ask you also, I understood from the guidelines that you're looking at different level, being national, regional, and also the continental level. And we're looking at 2 million to 5 million. And I mean, this is getting quite big if you want to include all the actors at all levels. So would you prefer to have much more impact in a smaller area, or you really want to insist on having all the levels and all actors engaged at the same time? Thank you.
I think I'll take, sorry, just one last question before answering. I don't have the time with me, so that I'm... and then we'll get for a second round of questions, if you don't mind.
Okay, it's a very specific short question. It's about, sorry, I'm Anne Schley. I'm the co-chair of the Working Group Financial Instruments of ENOP, the European Network of Political Foundations. My question is on Lot 4. It's a very specific one. It says the priority 1, it's about the implementation of the EU protocol on the rights of women, as well as the renewed Maputo plan of action. And my question is it, if certain rights are only in one of the two, does it also cover those, or is it only those rights that are in both protocols? Because they have a little bit of a different scope.
Thank you. Okay, that's... So I am starting with the easy one. I hope you won't mind. Number of applications, yes, indeed. Page 16 of the guidelines of the COFA proposal. There are some restrictions, and we decided to limit the participation by civil society to submitting only one application per lot. So that means you can submit one application for 2 different lots, one for lot 1, one for lot 2, but in any case you will not be awarded, in case you're selected, more than a grant for the whole call. So we also limited the participation. If your lead applicant cannot be a co-applicant under another proposal, we really basically wanted to avoid shopping. We wanted the organization started shopping around for the best local partners, and then local partners being involved in different proposals. We really wanted to encourage meaningful partnerships. I mean, the multi-stakeholder approach is about a consortium, a partnership of organizations, which feel they have something to do in common, and we wanted to avoid, that organization doing a bit of everything with different other organizations. So that's the idea behind it. So you could propose different proposal under different lots, but you would not get in more than one grant. The reshuffle between the different lots, in case, will depend on the standard eligibility. Let's say we do the eligibility criteria and to see whether the applications or the proposal are eligible. If there's no application eligible in the lot 2, or they have marks below the threshold, which is indicated in the evaluation grade, then we would, we could take the money from another lot where eligible proposal with very good marks have been found. So we have that standard sentence in the code that the contracting authority reserves the right, blah blah blah. That's the idea. do we want governments involved? That's not an easy one. Another easy one, sorry, and I'll get back to the tricky one. Lot 1, for activities that would be covered by rights, that would be covered by Maputo Protocol and not necessarily by the renewed plan of action or vice versa. We leave some flexibility. We're not necessarily looking for things that are covered in all the text. It's a matter of we're not trying to tick the boxes. We're trying to, again, it may sound as a blah blah answer. We're really looking for meaningful interventions. So even if they do not, cover, even if they do address rights that are not covered by all the text, no African text, it works. Co-financing, that's a tricky one because I don't remember. I would have to get back to you on that one. I think I can't remember what at the grant application, Sophia may help, what kind of information you need to provide already at the concept note stage about the source. You mean the source of the co-financing?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what it means to have like the co-financing mechanism. I don't have the hard copy here to check the page. But do you mean that the organization that is applying needs to have some complementary funding for this project? And if that's the case, what's the percentage? And if we have to have it in place when we submit the concept note?
Yeah, that's co-financing. So the co-financing indicated in the guidelines are 90%. The EU will finance up to 90% of the costs of the eligible cost of the action. That's the rule for this.
So we should have 10% covered by some other donor.
sources. But I cannot answer if the question is
at what stage we have to have that in place.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I could get back to you on that. I think we'll write the question and I will get back to you on that one. Governments involved and impact at a smaller level, or are we seeking an impact at regional? Then it's getting philosophical, and I'm turning to my colleagues. We had lengthy discussions on you may operate at continental level in Africa, but at one stage, impact or activities will have to take place somewhere. I mean, it's not in the air. It will have to take place concretely in a territory or in a country or in a region. It's not an easy one. What we are seeking is really an impact. We're not looking at implementing service delivery activities, which is sometimes done under EIDHR call in country or CSO LA call in one specific country. That's not the idea here. We're really talking about structuring the dialogue at continental level between civil society organizations and the institution operating at the continental level. That's really the idea. So it could be, again, a very concrete example of something that would be carried out in two countries to have these coverage that goes beyond the national level, but with a view to replicating it. Again, that's the core point of the call, because we're operating under the Pan-African program. So some activities that CSOs implement usually and that fit better under other mechanisms do not necessarily match the criteria here, because here we really are trying to improve that dialogue, make African Union more open to civil society, more receptive to understand that civil society organizations have a role to play in the implementation and the policy making, and also help have the CSO help African Union institution better monitor, because the African Union institutions do not have the capacity to monitor all the text, the implementation, ratification. Ratification is rather easy, but then the implementation, the holding the governments accountable for their responsibility deriving from the African norms, that's something the AU institutions are supposed to do, but they don't necessarily have the capacity. So we really are convinced that CSO have a role to play here to help AU institutions, to complement the work being done by the EU institutions. So Governments involved, possibly. More than governments, we would say EU institutions here, but it could be, let's say, a pilot project where it will work with governments, not one but several governments, with a view to test a methodology, a dialogue methodology on has those governments implemented, ratified those African charters. But I'm giving examples. I'm not. We really are on something where we are eager, very eager to know what you have to propose. We're not operating not on safe grounds, but it's a new tool. We're inventing it, so we're really eager to know what kind of proposal we receive to make this work. That's really the idea of this school.
Thank you. Yeah, that was also going to be my take on those two questions. Remember the slide where we have the circle going from the top to the bottom and then back. So there are gaps and there are information gaps. That's the basic problem. We would like the African citizens to be much more aware of all the clauses and the laws and the things that have been decided at the level of the African Union, and then close the loop the other way. So if you come with a proposal that includes governments in order to achieve that, and you are convincing and can show that this is a practical way, or it's giving you leverage to get the message better across, to get to that goal, then it will be looked at. So it's not excluded, it's actually the robustness of your proposal, being able to show that you will be able to provide an answer to the problem that we have identified, then that will be fine.
Je vais répondre en français à monsieur. C'est l'importance du rôle des organisations qui défendent le droit des personnes handicapées. Nous sommes convaincus de leur importance. Nous estimons que ce n'est pas exclu par cet appel à proposition, mais que ça rentrerait dans le cadre plus général des droits de l'homme. Ce que je veux juste passer comme message, c'est un peu dans le même sens de ce que l'on vient de dire, c'est que cet appel à proposition a un esprit particulier. On n'est pas sur la même idée que sur un appel à proposition qui serait lancé au niveau d'un pays, qui vraiment aiderait des acteurs très précis dans ce pays, comme ça peut être le cas dans d'autres instruments. On est vraiment au niveau de la structuration du dialogue. Donc, si au niveau continental, en se basant sur des textes qui existent, est-ce que, je prends le cas des personnes handicapées, est-ce qu'il y a des textes suffisants qui protègent les droits des personnes handicapées? Je vous avoue, je ne suis pas une expériente en matière, mais je pourrais me renseigner. C'est peut-être le cas. Dans ces cas-là, sont-ils mis en œuvre? Sont-ils respectés par le gouvernement, etc. C'est là où on chercherait à soutenir une action. S'il n'y a pas un cadre juridique au niveau continental qui est adéquat, comment peut-on faire pour y contribuer et l'améliorer? Je suis désolée parce qu'on prend vraiment cette perspective très très macro. Très très macro au niveau continental, au niveau du cadre juridique, au niveau du dialogue entre les autorités et la société civile. Mais la question des personnes handicapées est une question, leur vulnérabilité n'est pas à démontrer, on est parfaitement d'accord. Je ne sais pas si ça répond à votre question. Merci.
Oui, bonjour, je me présente, je suis Madame Hadissa Khognan, présidente du Forum de solidarité internationale issue des migrations. Et notre plateforme travaille beaucoup avec d'autres associations de la diaspora de tous les pays. Et ce que je voulais demander sur le programme panafricain, est-ce qu'il est possible pour une organisation comme la nôtre, qui travaille avec ces associations, de déposer un projet, quel que soit le lot, pour refinancer ces associations sur des projets plus modestes. Parce qu'en général, ces associations qui sont des acteurs de terrain n'ont pas la capacité de déposer des projets ou sur des programmes de l'Union européenne. Peut-être qu'il faut que, même au-delà du consortium, des organisations parapluies qui puissent aujourd'hui déposer ce projet pour l'implémenter au niveau des associations de base, et si c'est possible pour le programme panafricain. Je vous remercie.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I just have a quick question. If you could clarify on the guidelines you mentioned an African organization, so just about the nature. So I've seen CSOs networks, institution bodies. If you could just clarify if it's open or if you are thinking about something special. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Egosa. I'm from Nigeria. Mine would just be a little clarification because we know that children's rights is very important and it's a big issue in Africa. Was it deliberate attempt not to include it in this lot as it has a clear relationship with women's rights? If it was a deliberate attempt, what is the future of children's rights within the agenda of this call?
Yes, hello, my name is Joshua Massarenti. I'm an Italian journalist based in Brussels. You mentioned the fact that it is important to reduce the information gaps between AU and CSOs. And we are working with approximately 30 medias in Africa. And I think they are an important instrument to reduce this gap in order to raise awareness among African citizens. But I'm wondering how private media can be involved in such a project, for example. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Achieng Akana. I work for the Center for Citizens Participation in the African Union. I work with African organizations engaging in this space, and I'm just curious to understand why the Commission found it necessary to make it such a restrictive call that will, in fact, make it quite difficult for many African organizations to be able to participate. Issues of co-financing, which requires at least 200,000 euros to be raised separately. The partnership requirements, some of these requirements are pretty restrictive. And also why the lots were framed the way they were. They kind of feel like Russian dolls because the Africa governance architecture is comprised of institutions that deal with the human rights and democracy mandate. And then you have the African human rights system, which pulls out the human rights component from AGA, and then you have women's rights, which pulls out from human rights. And so I'm not sure why you had that sort of pull-out system. And finally, if there is going to be some sort of mechanism for feeding back on the call itself that would allow input for organizations, particularly from Africa, that have applied or have had structural challenges with the application process or the requirements, if there'll be some form of feedback that people can give.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Tim Clark. I had three questions. One has just been very ably presented, was the issue about the size of the proposal. 2 million is a very high threshold for most NGOs. Secondly, linked to that is, in order to have a win-win with this type of call, there has to be an incentive by NGOs to invest time to write the concept notes. If there are only going to be 9 or 10 winners, how many people are really going to be encouraged to submit bids? And then the third question relates to the non-human rights elements. I think Paul in the beginning said there were 5 key areas, of which 2 were sustainable development and climate change. Are other calls for proposals coming out in those 2 areas? Thank you.
Hi, Valeria Bianconi, British Council. I would like just to make just a very short question. As according to the guidelines, member state agencies are not eligible to apply. Which kind of agency fall under this list? if pillar assessed agencies or if you have a different kind of list of member state agencies. Thank you.
I have a very simple question. And it's related a little bit to one question that just have been asked. It's about the future programming of the PANAF. I saw the actual plan for 2015. There were actions for other not accessible to CSO. And I was just wondering if there is already some ideas that maybe some future calls open to CSO are maybe already planned for the future. Yeah.
If you don't mind, given the time, I think I would concentrate on the questions that are really relating to this call and not the future, which I'm sorry, but we can have the exchanges afterwards. And I would like to be able to answer the questions because there's a few minutes left. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. One in eligibility. You say that in the guidelines, branches of the same organization cannot apply as applicant and main applicant. If it's a federation of members with legal entities, with different legal entities, is that considered branches for you or not? And a question on location. Can you confirm if what you mean in the guidelines that applications with only one country are not eligible? You mean one country in Africa, or you mean one country in Europe and one country in Africa? Then do we have to submit applications with different countries in Africa, or one alone, even with a continental approach in their application?
Other pending questions? Just one? Two? Okay.
Yeah, and thank you. Just you mentioned that an African organization plus a European, so have to apply, but non-African alone. So I'm wondering how you are going to monitor that, because I know exactly what's happening on the ground when there is this collaboration in this AU mechanism of funding. So most of the fund going back to the European organization, transferring through the salaries and many other things, then just a little going impacted directly the local NGOs and also the activity underground. So I'm really wondering about this. You have to put it. And the last question is to follow my sister from the African Union in the back. This portfolio, it's of 2 million and 5 million, and you know that, I think clearly, that not many civil society organizations in Africa have the capacity to manage this kind of funding. So I think this is not helping the African civil society. It's going to be very restricted. So maybe it will be good to understand why you really put this issue. And the 5 areas are really very critical actually now in Africa. So either to restrict it. Thank you.
Last question. Thank you.
Dora Jaffel from France Média Monde, Radio France Internationale, et the French TV, sorry, in English, French TV channel France 24. Would it be possible for you to collect our contact for partners who are, for the organization here, who are looking for potential partner? I don't know if it's possible. Yes, for us to give you the contact, our contact.
You networking?
Yeah.
You want to contract me for networking? Okay.
I don't know, or I don't know.
The idea of this session was also to.
Yeah, I think that it could be good thing. Yeah.
Yes, the idea to have that session was also to invite people so that they can, recognize each other, discuss each other, to come up with a proposal. That's the plan. I'll have to answer very quickly because the lady making the presentation, with the following presentation, is my office next door in the office, and she looked at me this morning. She said, "You better not be late." So there are 2 questions. I would like to go back to a written answer because I would like to be very sure what I would say. The eligibility of member state agency and the branches of federation. Those are questions for which I would like to really draft the answer, write the answer with the help of the legal people, so that we have a very clear definition that is not just my state of mind at the moment, if you don't mind. So I'm sending back those two questions for written answer in the coming days. Let's see. The definition of CSOs we took, what do we have in mind? I think that's the question that was asked. We have a very wide definition of civil society organization that we refer to. So if you look page 9 of the call for proposal, the lead applicant must be a legal person, a not-profit making organization, and civil society organization. And then you have a footnote with a definition of the communication of the commission. There's a reference and the link. So you will see it's a very wide definition of civil society organization, which does not exclude. I don't think it is. It's the widest definition we found that is written in the communication of the Commission. So include membership-based, cause-based, service-oriented CSOs, among them community-based organization, NGOs, faith-based organization, foundations, research institutions, gender and LGBT organization, cooperatives, professional and business association, not-for-profit media, trade unions and employers organization, which are called social partners, constitute a specific category of CSOs. So I hope I will not excluding anyone here. The idea was not to exclude anyone, that's why we took the definition. I hope so. The amounts. The amounts are a very critical questions and one that we discuss at length. The amounts are very big. And we know it's apart from a very, very few African organizations, it's not possible for one African organization to bear it alone. That's not the idea, anyway, that an African organization would bear the idea. We explained that we are talking about a joint Africa-EU partnership, so the idea would have to have already the Africa-EU partnership in each grant. One African, one European organization. The one would be the lead applicant, the other one would be the co-applicant. That means they would be both beneficiaries. They are both, in a grant contract, they become both beneficiaries with legal rights and obligation towards the commissions when we sign the contract. It's not that it will be signed as soon as you have a co-applicant, it becomes a co-beneficiary. It's not, it doesn't disappear. It's not, the grant is not carried by one organization only. That's important. So having big grants was the idea of operating at that continental level, structuring the dialogue, not service delivery in a specific place. I don't know how to explain it better because we had that discussions. We don't want to have a collection of small programs that could be funded under different programs. You had recently EIDHR call launched by the EU delegation to the African Union. So it was for human rights defenders. You know, it was more specific. That's not the purpose of this call. Different instrument, different approach. To be honest, we're testing that approach. We're testing with the idea of structuring, again, structuring at the very macro level. We're not saying it's idea, but we didn't want to go in a collection of small programs that could be funded under different instruments, of which it is the objective. So I hope that answered the same question that was asked several times. The location, not in one country alone. An action that would take place in one European country and one African country would not work. We want at least implementation in different African countries. Maybe the sentence could be clarified. And in countries belonging to different regional economic communities. We don't want one activity taking place in Togo and sorry, it escapes my mind now, the neighboring country of Togo. Benin, one action taking place in Togo and Benin, and then saying we can speak for the rest of the continent. It wouldn't work. So different countries in Africa. Involvement of private media. There are different mechanisms that can work for involving private media. The grant beneficiaries can have service contracts. I mean, in the implementation of their call, I need to check the characteristic for associate, and so you have associates and contractors. So you have different categories of stakeholders in a grant. The main one being the beneficiaries, the co-beneficiaries, and the main beneficiary and the co-beneficiaries. But you can have service contract for private media, for instance. I'm not saying it's the only mechanism, but looking page 12 of the call for proposal, where you have the different categories explained, I think you can find something. Otherwise, you can always submit another question in writing. Children's rights. It's the same as rights of people with disability. I mean, it's a critical issue. We would see it as falling under the human rights vocabulary, or children's rights and the women's rights as well. We do not pretend to have an exhaustive call which covers everything. But again, we're very open, as Paul said. Propose something and you demonstrate how it fits within the overall objectives, which I think are very broad of this call. And I think there's no, we don't have any a priori to exclude the topic.
Just on the few questions on the future, very briefly. So we have programmed the PANAF until 2017. So the first part, so 415 million has been programmed. So the other part, the balance, to be programmed for 2018-2020. Until 2017, there will be no specific CSO call, but everything is open for the period later. What topics to be discussed? We still have to start discussing with the African Union partners, and so we are. It's too early in the process, but indeed there are 5 main areas, and so it will be under the 5 main areas, and it will not be anymore democracy, good governance, and human rights.
That also has to do with the feedback mechanism. I think we'll be very careful and very attentive, can't remember, on the feedback we will receive on this call. We understand there are questions. We will try to see if it can work. We hope it can work. We're sure there are great things that can be supported under this call. Next phase could be in different areas. That remains to be seen. I'll have to finish here. Just to go back on the children, something I did not highlight, but it's important for us, the involvement of youth. We're not strictly talking about children, but the role of youth organization. Not necessarily only linked to the recent migration and the youth. What kind of perspective can we give to the youth? But when we consulted some stakeholders on the identification of this program, the question of youth was crucial, was the main one. But then we find it very tricky to know how to articulate the willingness of youth organizations to get involved with how we could support them. So we would like to associate them to such actions so that they can provide ideas, input to learn, capacity of youth organization as well. So it's not only children, but the role of youth in this call, and it's reflected in the evaluation grid as well. You will see it's important for us. I would like to stop here. We will receive questions in writing. Just the last question on diaspora, Jonathan. Sorry, Madame demande sur la diaspora. Si ça vous dérange pas, on va faire la réponse en écrit. Je suis désolée. On peut en discuter un peu maintenant. So any questions in writing can be submitted to the functional mailbox that is included in the guidelines. We will put the recording of that session on the website. We will also put the PowerPoint presentation, and we will have a translation of this session in French as well on the website. We both speak French and English, so there's no problem. The guidelines are also available in French. Applications can be made in both languages. Thank you. I'm sure we have not exhausted all your questions, but thank you for your patience. Merci.